It's a new week, and with it comes a brand new episode of Pixel Peak.
We're only on our second live episode of the season, so we're still working out a few kinks. Thanks for sticking with us.
We promise to make it worth your while. After all, this week's news was filled with legal trouble, one of our favorite things to talk about.
Bandai Namco is finally cracking down on third-party arcade cabinet manufacturers, who also happen to be in deep trouble with Walgreens. Legal news never ceases to surprise me.
That's not the only legal surprise for this week. Just when we thought Nintendo was out of the woods with their drifting Joy-Con lawsuit, the newly released Switch Lite systems are seeing the defect after only 20 hours of use. Yikes.
And believe it or not, Fallout 76 players built a courthouse just to undergo an in-game trial against the Vulture's Raider group. A judge, jury, lawyers, and even bailiffs are part of an ongoing in-game investigation. That counts as legal news, right?
I would count it. Following the news, gamer reviewer Bianca Bortoluzzi is bringing us something special and maybe a little creepy. If you want to know what it is, stay tuned.
You should also stay tuned because our third host, Laird Davis, will be sitting down with our newly appointed mobile analyst, Tanner Mizelle, to talk about the recent happenings within the App Store and Google Play Store.
There's lots to talk about in so little time, so let's just go for it. I'm Sydney Thompson.
And I'm Kristen Lawrence, and we hope you enjoy your stay here on Pixel Peak. Mario Kart Tour just released, and within its first day, it has already broken records. With over 20 million downloads, it beats other Nintendo mobile games like Super Mario Run, Animal Crossing Pocket Camp, and Dr. Mario World. That's double than what Apptopia, a website that surveys the performances of games, and had estimated for the game's release. On Google Play, Mario Kart Tour has reached 10 million downloads, which exceeds the number of downloads Pokémon Go did through Google Play on its first day. The game is free to download with the option of in-game purchases, including a Gold Pass subscription. The Gold Pass subscription is something Nintendo is experimenting with. The game is $4.99 a month and allows those with the subscription to have access to exclusive characters, carts, badges, and other items, as well as access to the 200cc racers. This is Nintendo's first attempt at a subscription model for a single game. The game seems to be doing well, having earned over $1 million in in-game purchases in its first day. This does not include the Gold Pass subscription because of the 2-week free trial that has been offered. Terms and conditions for the free trial can be found on the game's website.
Just 1 week after being sued, AtGames, the maker of mini consoles, has acquired interest in Miss Pac-Man. AtGames was sued by Bandai Namco over allegations that AtGames interfered in negotiations over a rights issue. Bandai Namco alleges that AtGames misrepresented itself as licensed to make Miss Pac-Man products under that name. A representative from General Computer Corporation, the company who first programmed Miss Pac-Man in 1982 and later sold the property to Bally/Midway, and Namco confirmed to Polygon that the transaction had taken place. As a result, AtGames acquired the royalty interest that was owed to GCC's 7 rights holders, and the right has to be paid whenever Miss Pac-Man's work is used commercially. The chief executive of AtGames, Ping Kong Schwing, made the following statement: "As part of our ongoing initiative to be caretakers of important cultural touchstones, we are privileged to gain these valuable rights pertaining to the iconic Miss Pac-Man arcade game." AtGames' attorney commented on the lawsuit, claiming that BNEA ordered its lawyers to attack AtGames by any means possible. To make matters worse for AtGames, the company is also being sued by Walgreens for breach of contract. Walgreens and AppGames had a deal that AppGames would provide products on a guaranteed sale basis, meaning AppGames would refund any unsold units to Walgreens. After Walgreens returned with more than 66,000 units, AppGames refused to pay them back. As a result, Walgreens claims AppGames owes nearly $1.7 million. As of today, AppGames has not responded to the company.
When it comes to role-playing games, it's safe to say that the goal of game developers is to offer a fun, immersive experience in the fictional world they've created. But one Fallout 76 community has gone beyond that and are hosting a real recorded trial against an in-game raider. Not only are they raising the bar, they're practicing it too. This all started when the role-playing group Fallout 50, who act as a first responder or police faction, won a fight against the large raider gang called the Vultures. Rather than just take their stuff and call it a day, they took the Vultures' leader, Warlord, captive and are letting the Fallout community decide his fate. An in-game courthouse was constructed, and there are lawyers, a judge, and even a bailiff. After the trial, being released in episodic videos, is finished, the community will act as a jury and decide his fate. Keep in mind that in this server, death is permanent, so the fate of Warlord could have a greater impact on the Vultures, which has over 100 members. If you have been a victim of the Vultures or witness to Warlord's crimes, Fallout 50 encourages you to submit video evidence on their Facebook, Twitter, or website.
September 26th was the start of Pokemon Go's World Tourism Day, an event organized under the partnership of the United Nations World Tourism Organization, and the event will end October 1st, today. During this event, players will be able to earn 2 times the regular XP at Pokestops, and Mime Jr. will be making their debut. Many regional Pokemon will be able to be found in 5-kilometer eggs, and Zangoose and Seviper will be swapping regions as well. Zangoose will be able to be found in Europe and Seviper in the US. During this event, players will be given field research tasks. 2 of the 3 are pretty simple: make friends and send them gifts that you can find at Pokestops. The 3rd task is trade Pokemon that have been caught 10,000 kilometers apart. To get an idea of the distance that you'd need to have traveled for this to work is from Chicago to London and Los Angeles to Maine. Basically, you need to travel halfway around the world to trade Pokemon with someone, or across the country, or live by an airport and be really good at making friends. There are websites you can go to so you can exchange trainer numbers to befriend others from all over the world. One website called Friend Hunter, you can find friends by location. Most likely though, not many people will be able to complete this task. As well as Pokemon Go's World Tourism Day, changes have been made to the mobile game dealing with battling and new Pokemon moves. Battling will now be more intuitive and responsive. The HP bar will flash when damage has been dealt to Pokemon, so it's easier to see. A few moves have received some tweaks. Bubble Beam will more reliably lower an opponent's stats, and Psychic deals more damage with a quicker cooldown. 2 new attacks added to the game are Thunder Fang and Ice Fang, which can be learned by a select few Pokemon.
The Nintendo Switch Lite has been added to the Joy-Con drift lawsuit brought against Nintendo. The lawsuit claims that the defective design ruined the thumbsticks for both consoles. With the recent release of the Switch Lite, the lawsuit now includes comments from social media, YouTube, and Reddit that confirm the thumbsticks on the Switch Lite start drifting after as little as 20 hours of play. Joy-Con drift is when a thumbstick for the Switch's stock controller registers an input even when it's not being moved. The lawsuit contains federal claims of fraud and breach of warranty, as well as violations of consumer protection laws, and after a brief investigation this summer, the lawsuit lists 18 plaintiffs in 16 different states. The suit, which was filed in July, is now seeking class action status. A statement from one user said, "I beat Link's Awakening over the weekend on my original Switch Lite system. I had only put like 20-something hours on it, and it started to show Joy-Con drift," wrote one player on Tuesday. Why is this happening earlier on than with the earlier Switch? Nintendo's brief public response acknowledged the company was aware of the issues and asked those who have had issues to contact customer support. In late July, Nintendo was offering free repairs on Joy-Cons, but there has not been an announcement relating to repairs this month.
This Saturday was Minecon, and with the live stream announced, new mobs, new biomes, and exciting things to look forward to in the coming year. Let's see what all the buzz is about. The biggest changes are coming in the otherworldly Nether, where players can find the desert Soul Sand Valley, and 2 new alien forest biomes full of new blocks. These new areas are inhabited by piglins, tusked terrors who are warlike but will trade for gold, and piglin beasts, which can be harvested for food in the Nether. Back in the overworld, bees can now be found buzzing about and will leave behind honey blocks. That's a lot of honey. Speaking of new blocks, there is now a target block, which can be hit with a projectile to produce a redstone signal. How long until someone makes a working version of Doom in Minecraft? Finally, there have been announcements for some of the new Minecraft games coming out soon. First, the AR game, Minecraft Earth, has a beta test beginning this October with exclusive rewards for testers. Go check it out. Minecraft Dungeons also got a new trailer along with the announcement for a board game called Minecraft Builders and Biomes. Also, capes have finally been released to Bedrock platforms along with the character creator we addressed last week. That sure was a lot of announcements, but we hope you dig them as much as we do. That's all we have for this week's news. Now to game reviewer Bianca for this week's game review.
If you've ever wanted to delve into the mindset of a cult, look no further. Sagebrush will fulfill that desire in a bite-sized package. Join me as we explore Sagebrush on this week's Pixel Peak Goldmine.
Sagebrush was released September 18th, 2018 on Steam and August 6th, 2019 on the PS4, and it was developed and produced by Redact Games. Sagebrush is a first-person narrative walkthrough game that has about a 1 to 2 hour gameplay, all presented in a pixelated lo-fi world. It's based on real-world cults and their effect on human mindset once a person has joined said cult. You play as a young woman who travels back to the Black Sage Ranch where the cult Perfect Heaven was located, as well as a mass suicide back in 1993, created by Father James and his wife Anne, who had convinced the young woman to join years before. You can travel around the entire compound, to abandoned trailers, a community house, a farm, a mine, a church, a school. You get it. You live throughout her past life within the cult, often recalling memories and past relationships. The atmosphere of the game was awesome. I always thought that someone or something was going to try and chase me or pop out at me at some point because that's just how creepy the game was. It's dark, eerie, and overall very mysterious as you try to figure out just what went down on this compound. The music score also added onto the creepiness of the game as well, often freaking me out whenever it shifted to a more sinister-like soundtrack. There are audio tapes, Bible verses, and journals throughout each area you can explore to learn more about Perfect Heaven and the people who used to live there. The game had a few puzzles, and I'll admit, I was stuck for a bit of time on one of them, but it wasn't too frustrating, and I was able to continue on with the game happily. The game isn't necessarily hard though, besides these few puzzles and the fact that the map is a bit hard to decipher at times. But the plot for Sagebrush was addicting. I never wanted to put my controller down because I just had to know what happened next. I thought things couldn't get creepier, but the game kept proving me wrong. You also get to see a lot of the other characters' point of view during their time at Perfect Heaven. I'm intrigued by all things true crime, so if you're like me and that's something you'd enjoy, I definitely recommend this short game. I didn't have too many issues with the game besides the brightness. I had to turn off all the lights in my room so I could properly see. It was rather dark, and changing the brightness within the game didn't really help. Besides that, though, I don't have any other complaints. The ending to the game seriously shocked me. The developers do an awesome job with messing with the player's mind. When I finished it, I was still sitting there reeling from what I had just watched. It wasn't an emotionally hard-hitting game per se, like I couldn't connect to it in that sense, especially because I've, never been in a cult. But the storytelling was flawless. I didn't feel bored at all during the game. And overall, I think it was an awesome game. It was a great game. Albeit short, it was well produced, had an interesting plotline, and the characters were wicked creepy. I really enjoyed playing in a lo-fi world as well, since I don't get to do it that often. I'm more about those realistic games. I've never played a game like Sagebrush, and I hope Redact does more with this kind of style and genre in the future.
I met Anne first, waiting for the bus. Normally, I avoid talking to just about anybody, but she struck up the conversation. She was so pleasant, so confident. She smiled at me as if she had known me as a kid, and we were just catching up after all these years. She told me she could tell I had a hole in my life. She knew what that was like, she said. She had also had a hole, but it was gone now. I asked her what she was selling, and she laughed and said nothing at all, that what she had to offer was free for anyone who wanted it bad enough. I asked her what had helped her. She just said, James.
Cults are terrifying, and this game showed just how intimidating they can be. Even though the game was very short, the true crime fanatic in me thought it was a great game. And that's all for this week's game review, so I'll pass it on to Laird to talk to our brand new mobile analyst, Tanner Mizelle, for this week's analysis.
With the release of Apple Arcade, the announcement of Google Play Pass, and the beta opening up for Project xCloud later this month, mobile and cloud gaming is all the rage these days. Here to talk about the recent trend is mobile analyst Tanner Mizelle. Thanks for joining me, Tanner.
Glad to be here.
So yeah, there's been a lot of hype surrounding these new platforms and mobile gaming in general. Can you explain that a little?
Yeah, so the biggest things that have been happening recently, we covered it in a previous season of Pixel Peak, but Apple just released their subscription-based gaming service called Apple Arcade. Google retaliated with a Google Play Pass. They both do similar things, but they're quite different.
So could, like on top of all of that, you also have these other platforms, Stadia and xCloud. What are those exactly?
So Stadia and xCloud are more for cloud-based gaming. With Apple Arcade and Google Play, the Google Play Pass, you will be downloading games to your phone, tablet, whatever smart device you may have. With Stadia and xCloud, however, it's a subscription-based service offered by Microsoft in terms of xCloud and Google in terms of Stadia. And those games are for more providing a console-level experience on any device. So you have games that are made to be played with controller, but you can play them anywhere with Stadia and xCloud.
So I know that a big issue for a lot of people when it comes to these new platforms is the financial aspect. How much are they going to be paying for the different subscriptions? So what are things looking like for these different subscriptions in terms of the financial side?
Well, it's actually easier to pay for than it ever has been. Games up to this point have been sold on a game-to-game basis. And with introduction to subscription-based gaming, a lot of people that have a lot of time to play lots of video games are going to be saving a whole lot of money by shifting to these subscription-based services, because they will more than likely, when they release, at least for xCloud and Stadia, will feature tons of games, just like Apple Arcade and the Google Play Pass do currently.
So the biggest thing holding back mobile gaming up until now have been the technical limitations, the fact that you have a single small device with not a ton of processing power, and also you only have what you can do with a touchscreen. So what do these new platforms mean for overcoming those obstacles?
Yeah, so it's been a little over 10 years since the release of one of the first smartphones, which is pretty mind-boggling. And in those 10 years, technology's come a long way. There's some phones and tablets that run much better than even modern-day laptops. And this newfound power of engineering is being utilized by game developers on mobile. That's why we're able to see like huge games like Fortnite on iPhone and Android. And the Apple, in all of their conferences, they've tried to show off the capabilities of their devices for gaming. And I just think that with this like more powerful hardware, as technology has developed, good developers will continue to emphasize like the power of the console and develop for it.
Yeah, and when it comes to the control schemes, a lot of people have been struggling with like operating on a tiny touch screen, like putting in inputs on the same surface that you're trying to look at for information in the game. What are they doing to overcome that specific obstacle?
Yeah, so for the recent release of Apple Arcade, it was released with a software version that introduced the capability to connect your phone with a controller. So for those more complex games, you have a controller that you can use to play those games on mobile. It's been available on the Google Play Store. for a little bit, but as it gets rolled out to more devices, that will be an easier way to play those games.
So with the arrival of these new platforms that take advantage of the devices that nearly every one of us has, what do you see these new platforms doing to the gaming industry in the long term? What do you think their impact is going to be?
Well, the introduction of subscription is obviously huge. I think that that is where a lot of gaming will move to, as it's saving money and it creates a sense of commitment on the consumer side, so it's good for businesses as well. But I think that we'll only continue to see more quality titles from mobile games and as the technology develops, and I just think that it will continually provide a great experience for people who are interested in gaming on any platform.
And with a new generation of consoles coming along as well, it's going to be interesting to see how the entire industry as a whole reacts. So
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Tanner, for joining us.
Glad to be here.
All right, that's all we have for time for today. Now to Sydney and Kristen to wrap up this week's live show.
Another live episode in the books. You doing all right, Sydney?
Yep. I just hope the editorial doesn't come back now that I've finally gotten used to being a host.
Shh. I heard that speaking that section's name too loudly will break the seal that's holding it back.
Well, regardless of if the section that must not be named comes back, you can expect us to be here, giving you the latest in video game industry news.
Absolutely. We'll continue to go live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. in tons of places. You can catch us online at watchapptv.com or on local television through Sky Best channels 20 and 1020, Spectrum channel 198, or on our campus television channel 23.3.
You can also catch us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at PixelPeakAppTV with more gaming thoughts, news, and reviews.
And as always, this episode wouldn't have been possible without everyone behind the scenes. Thanks to writers Jalen Curtin, Laird Davis, and Rebecca Larson, producer and mobile analyst Tanner Mizelle, game reviewer Bianca Bortoluzzi, and producers Caitlin Halley and Michael Annable for another great episode.
Thank you so much for watching, and we hope you enjoyed your stay here
on Pixel Peak.